Greetings comrades, Soviet Gaming here. Today we are talking about another team composition, and this time it's Thoran Cheese. Thoran Cheese is considered to be the strongest team composition right now for the progression because it can take out the strongest enemy team, the highest high-level deficit teams, and it will be only limited by your own Thoran and by the enemy teams. So there are some teams that can be countered, but other than that, it's really cool. The main issue with the Thoran Cheese is that it's RNG based, so you will have to try a lot of times, several times, a lot of times, depending on your luck in order for it to work correctly. Moreover, it can be a little bit too tricky to use, so you need to use the right heroes in order to counter enemy abilities, so you gotta know who will go where, and they should be all around Thoran in order for him to execute the enemies all together on his ability. So let's go over it, and as we go I will cover the main things about this team. And yes, this team is also based on the Xepi Slenderman guide on Reddit. The link will be down there in the description if you want to read the text version of it, and I'm really grateful to all the guys on the Reddit who are making those fantastic guides. So let's go into it. So since this team is based on Thoran, we will go over that guy, his equipment, and the minimum level of Thoran in order for this team to work. So based off the guide, Thoran is supposed to be ascended obviously, and plus 30 signature item, that's the minimum. And the guide requires him to have the 3 furniture bonus. I already got that by the summoning, but when I was trying this before I wrote the guide, my Thoran didn't have the furniture bonus and he was actually working okay. So that deadly attraction option here will just help him to get the enemies together closer to him in order for him to execute them with the ability. It can work without it, so it can be used earlier before you will get a furniture to Thoran. As for the gear, for Thoran it's recommended to have maximized tier 2 boots and weapon. Moreover, he should have maximized chest of elite of the faction, so it's not the best gear available. You have to use this elite because it will give you accuracy bonus, but it won't get the damage resistance. And for the helmet, you would like to have the Vow of Valor, the legendary helmet with the faction bonus. It will give you additional critical rating, and the dodge won't be that high on this one. Because if you will go for the mythic gear, that will give you some physical resist, and that's actually bad for Thoran because he won't be able to reflect that much damage, so don't go for it. And guys, if you want to, you can actually upgrade the boost to tier 3 because that will give you additional haste, additional critical rating, and that will be better than getting some additional physical resist and magical resist. So overall gains of those bonuses will be better, and they will overweight the defense bonuses in terms of damage later on. As for the artifact, for Thoran there are only 2 options. It's either Dura's Call because it will give you additional haste and energy regen, which is really needed for Thoran, or it can be Dura's Eye, because that will give you additional haste again, that will give you additional critical, which is really good, and in case of Dura's Eye, additional physical resist again won't be a problem because damage boost from the critical will overall be better. So yeah, that's a different option. So most of the time you will go with the Dura's Call. In case if you don't need extra energy and you're good, you can go for the Dura's Eye for additional damage. If you are not familiar with Thoran, there are 2 abilities that will be the main for this fight. First one is Retaliation, that's the main one. Basically with this ability, when Thoran is focusing down like that, he is taking damage and collecting it, and then he is reflecting it back to all the enemies around him, and that mostly should kill them. So we will rely on this Retaliation ability most of all. And the second ability is Taint. With this ability, Thoran at the beginning of the fight will curse the enemy with the lowest amount of health, and after that the cursed enemy will lose 75% of the health Thoran receives. And this ability will last for 25 seconds, so that will allow you to take out one of the enemies who is the weakest with this ability. Now, since we have plus 30 signature item ability, Thoran won't actually be killed. He cannot be killed for the first 2 times that he enters the focusing phase of his Retaliation ability. That means that he can take insane amount of damage and reflect it back to the enemies, and then he can still be alive and keep fighting. So we will try to use and exploit these mechanics in order to destroy the strongest enemies, because the higher the level deficit, the stronger the enemies, the harder they hit, and the easier it is to kill them with their own attacks. Now let's talk about the team that Thoran should have in order to take out the enemies. There are several heroes that can work well with Thoran. I'll list them right now and then we'll go over each of them explaining how they work. Those are Pipa, Rain, Skriath, Zafrel, Kelthur, and Zoloras. Each of those heroes have their own role in this, and we will start with Pipa. In order for Pipa to be useful in this team composition, she should have 20 signature item, and that allows Pipa to teleport ally and give him immunity to all damage for 5 seconds after being teleported by her ability. So we will use that in order to move Thoran into the enemy territory. So what does Pipa do? She teleports Thoran into the enemy group, that way they don't have to go towards him, and it will work against some heroes that don't really move. And moreover, that gives him 5-second immunity that will allow him to build up energy and stuff. And moreover, it will stun one of the enemies. So that will go something like this. He's teleported out there and being in the middle of the enemy team, which is pretty cool. And then he can use his ultimate. The main thing about Thoran Cheese though, that you want him to have enough energy to activate his ultimate when he is at the enemy team, otherwise he will just die before he will trigger his ultimate and you won't be able to cheese the enemies. Second hero that can give him energy is Rain. She requires only 10 signature item that allows your ally to recover 50% of health or energy Rain have, so that will allow Thoran to recover additional energy and health. Moreover, if Rain will be able to release your ultimate before she will die, that will boost Thoran's damage quite a lot, so if you can do that, that will be really nice. Another option that will allow your team to generate more energy are Eddies. Eddies will allow your guys to get 70% extra energy regen even if he dies. Moreover, he can pull enemies towards him specifically on the higher furniture bonus. That will allow ability Feeble Mind to simultaneously cause both farthers frontline enemy and backline enemy to fall under his control and move towards him. So that will allow enemies to go closer to Thoran if you need them to move. Additional energy source might be Rowan, but since Rowan is busy with the Charm Core team, which we talked about in the different video, by the way, if you haven't seen that, the link will be out here. I recommend to check it out. That's the second best team. You don't really want to make him and Rosalind busy somewhere else, so that might be the better option for them. So we won't use him for this case. If you're not using that team, you can use Rowan here, but in my opinion, Rowan can be used in any team, like he's really useful hero, so you'd better not to get him busy here if you can deal without him. And the last option that can give you additional energy for today is Laika. Laika will give you energy boost at the start, and moreover she will give you a haste bonus, which is really useful as well. So Laika in our team is mostly for the aim skill that will give us 35 haste and 100 energy at the beginning of the fight. By the way, for the most heroes you would like to use Duraskull as well, so they will get additional haste and will be able to proc their skills before they will be killed, because that's the most likely end for them in this team. Most of your allies will die. Another option that can give you team haste is Zoloras, but you need him at 3 furniture in order to be effective, and that requires him to be ascended, so not everyone will be able to do that. While his 3 furniture bonus isn't actually a haste, that will postpone the enemy's appearance on the battlefield, and that will give all your team an edge at the beginning, and they might pull off the ultimate earlier. But since Zoloras is the part of the core team as well, like he's really good over there, I wouldn't recommend to use him in this team either. And the last but not least hero that can give you additional haste is Flora. When you have her furniture at 3 or 9 pieces, which is even better, all your allies will get additional 24 haste points and the enemies will lose 12 haste points, so that will make your guys to do stuff faster and the enemies do stuff slower. That will give you an advantage as well. Moreover, since Flora can't be killed, she can help your guys with the damage on the enemy, but we'll talk about that a bit later. You also might include tank in your team with the barricade artifact in order to let Thoran survive for the first 2 seconds, so he can be teleported by Pipa to the enemy side of the battlefield and get that immunity. For that you can use heroes like Mazas, Hendrik, or Scrag, or even Ortas. Those are all good options equipped with the barricade artifact. They can protect him, but you should use them only in the case if Thoran dies early on. Otherwise, there are better options for the team. Now let's cover the heroes that will help Thoran to hit the enemies with the ultimate that otherwise won't be hit, the guys who are stationary, like spellcasters that won't move towards him in any case. Those are Nara, because she can pull enemies towards her, and if Thoran won't go to the enemy side and you plan to get enemies close to your team, that will be really useful because the enemy will be destroyed over here. Next one is Kelthur. She basically swaps position with the opposite enemy. That's another option to get the enemy close to Thoran in order for him to execute that target. Then we have Athalia, who will basically attack the enemy and bring them all the way back to your side. Another option to take out enemy heroes is Lorsan. His Gale Force will link two enemies, and when one of those will receive damage, the other one will receive it as well. So that will allow you to reach enemies that are otherwise unreachable. And when the linked enemy will die, the other one will get 1 HP, so he can be finished off after that quite easily. And the last option is 5 pull, so you can use Aaron and Skriat in order to pull the enemies together, and that's the easiest way to pull enemies to Thoran, but that usually used for the different team with Lucretia, so it's not really recommended to use them here for the Thoran Cheese because they are usually used in another team. Now, there are some side DPS heroes that can help you to take out the enemies who are low on health after the Thoran's ultimate, and those shouldn't die that easily because by the time Thoran will ult, most of your guys will die. So those are Kelthor again, because his Gust is still on the battlefield when your main team dies. Another option is Telin, because she will resurrect and will do damage to the enemy team as well. And Flora, because she's flying above the battlefield and doing that damage. Although you shouldn't use Call on Telin and Flora because they will not die in the end and they won't transfer their energy to Thoran. Because if you don't know, Duraskull on level 5 have an additional ability. If slain, all remaining energy is shared among allied heroes, so if all your team is dead, the energy they recovered will be transferred to the only surviving hero, which is Thoran. Sometimes the enemy team need to be crowd controlled because some of their skills might screw over your formation, like Aaron, or can be quite annoying, like Mihira's Bats or Sephia's skill. So you can use Athalia and Nara again in order to disrupt their first skill, or use Zafrael, who will basically cancel most of the enemy first skills. Now let's move to the guys who can actually help your Thoran to take out all the enemy team. Those guys play significant role in the Thoran's success because they will boost his damage output. Rain, when she ults, will do crazy damage boost to the enemy team, but in order to do that she have to survive, so it's not always the case. Same with Mortis, if he's able to ultimate and buff Thoran's damage, that will give him significant boost. And by the way, you don't need those guys really high in order to be that effective. And Lorsan, which is totally different thing. His inner sight ability and his Gale Force abilities will be really valuable with the Thoran Cheese composition because that will allow him to do insane damage on the enemies. Moreover, it's worth to mention that Thoran Cheese is usually working better when there is a high deficit range, like when the power deficit is strong and the enemies do insane amount of damage. So for weaker teams like this one, it might not always work, so it's recommended to use him at the later stages when the difference is more significant, he shines there more. So okay guys, this is the team I kinda combined in the campaign to show you the Thoran Cheese. As you can see, the power deficit isn't that crazy, so we'll go for the guild trials and test it out there as well. But yeah, I can kinda explain how it works here and in another fight as well. As for the artifacts, Rain needs Call as well. There we go, and let's test it out and see if it will work out. As you can see, there is a taint on the Faux right now, that purple thing that flew towards him. The enemies are killing everyone of our group, that's actually pretty good. Thoran is using the ultimate right now, charging up. Rain with your ultimate, that will allow us to do more damage on the enemies. Thoran with the second ultimate right now, and all our team is dead, that's really good. All the enemies are next to Thoran, so he should mirror it really well. There is another chance for his ultimate right now. Come on, Thoran. Don't die, please. Don't shame me. Yes, you should replay the fights with Thoran several times, sometimes, but in this case, it seems to work really well. And we have only one enemy left, and he's been killed by the ultimate of Thoran again. So we did it, and as you can see by the damage output, the Flora did insane damage today. But actually Thoran did a really good job as well, and the higher enemy level will go, the higher Thoran's contribution will be. So let's go into the guild trials and test it once again over there. So there we go. In this team we are facing the enemies who are 15 times stronger than we are in terms of power, so that's already a really high deficit, and here Thoran will show you what he can do. We have Pipa here to throw Thoran into the enemy group. Moro because we can't remove him. We have Aziz here for additional energy regen, and Lorson here in case that he can do something good. So yeah, I'll take it slow so we can actually see what the hell is happening in the fight. Thoran with his ability on Laika, the Taint. Now all our guys are dead and Thoran is in the middle. Alright, he's been attacked by a lot of enemies. He's dead, he's resurrected, but he will have enough energy, enough mana by the time. He's using his ultimate, and now the enemies attack him, and he is reflecting back with his ability. And as you can see, everyone is dead. That's how the Thoran Cheese works at the higher level deficits. Nobody did anything but Thoran just decimated the enemies. So once again, Pipa's ultimate doesn't allow him to die early on, then he gets the resurrection, gets the energy buff while everyone is stunned, he's starting his ultimate, then they attack him few times, and since the damage difference is that crazy, this moment he's collecting all the hate and killing them in one shot. So which issues Thoran Cheese team does have when they don't work? First of all, it's enemy Thoran team. They won't be able to counter enemy Thoran team ever, so that's not the best option for you. Another team that Thoran most likely won't be able to win is Aziz. Although there are rumors that you can use RNG to your advantage to take them out, but I personally wouldn't try that much. And another enemy team that is really hard is Zoloras. Once again, not recommended, and it is possible to RNG it, probably. But then again, you can use different team in order to counter that. But it's better to use different team in order to fight Zoloras. Why your Thoran sometimes can kill enemies and what to do to increase his damage output? Well, first of all, as I said, Thoran doesn't really work well at the low level deficit, so something like 150 level deficit is recommended to use him properly, otherwise there are high chances that you won't have enough firepower to take enemies out fast enough like I tried here in the different teams, because the enemies didn't do enough damage for him to retaliate. In those scenarios you can try to replace his Dura's Call to Dura's Eye because he doesn't die that fast and that might give him additional damage bonus, include Mortas in the team that will allow him to get additional damage bonus as well, or use Rain's ultimate, or do all of those. So we can replace this lady with Mortas here and that should give us better chances, theoretically. Also removing the furniture that gives your Thoran critical damage resistance might be a good option, that way he can take more damage and will retaliate harder. Also sometimes it's better to run a lower amount of heroes on your team in order to position enemies to Thoran easier, so if you run something like this, the enemies will be closer to Thoran and you won't have to kinda try to gather them around from all the map. It's also really important to know how many static heroes there are on the enemy team. For example, in this team we have Laika and Nimora. Those are the static guys and they won't really move unless they will be moved by our guys. They will stay on their own positions and shoot from there, and that will make it harder for Thoran to ultimate cheese them. So let's talk about how to avoid that and how to move the enemies on the enemy team. If there are 0 static enemies on the enemy team and everyone will move, you will either drop Thoran in with the Pipa or just wait out with Thoran before all the enemies will come to him and then ultimate them down. If there is one static enemy at the enemy team, for example it will be on the Brutus place, you just move Thoran in front of his position, so that way Thoran will come to him and ultimate him. Or you can wait until Pipa's teleport and see if Thoran will be able to reach that static hero. If that static hero is in the enemy backline, for example we want to take out Nimora, we can test out if Pipa will teleport Thoran next to her, let's see. That is not the case, so it won't work in our situation. If Thoran will be teleported here, he will be able to use ultimate to take Nimora out. Another option would be using Lorsan. His health link will link the furthest and the closest enemy together, so if you want to link Nimora, you will place him somewhere here and he will link her with this guy. If you will place him over here, he will link the hero where Nara is with the Brutus. So that's really useful for you to take out specific heroes. So for example, we do this. We start the battle and see how it will go. Yes, the Nimora is linked to Thoran and now when he will ultimate, she will take excessive damage. And another option, if you don't want to use Pipa or Lorsan, or you can't, you can always use Athelia, you can always use Kelthur, or you can use Nara to pull the enemies toward your position so Thoran can ultimate them down on your backline. There we go, now Nemora is next to Thoran and she will be in the range of his ultimate ability. If there are two static heroes on the enemy team, let's imagine that those are Zoloras and Brutus here, so all frontline heroes are static. Then Thoran with 3 furniture bonus will be enough. They will be coming together over here to his place and he will ultimate them down, so that should be sufficient. If 2 static heroes are in the backline, like in our situation with Laika and Nemora, Thoran with 3 furniture bonus and Pipa will be enough. She will drop him over there and they should come to him quite easily. Sometimes you would like to add Lorsan into equation. That will allow you to take out the one who don't wanna go. If those 2 static heroes are apart, like Nara and Nemora over here, you have to check where people will teleport you, so in our case it will be towards Nara, and then you will link the furthest hero who will not be in the Thoran's reach with Lorsan, so in our case he will be over there, and that way when Thoran will be in that area and he will ult, the target over here at the south will be destroyed by the link. In case if we have 3 static heroes on the enemy team, we can use Aaron and Skriat combo in order to get all those guys together and use Thoran Cheese on them. Another option will be teleporting Thoran to the enemy backline. If 2 static heroes are being close to him to ultimate, then you add Lorsan in and link the one who won't be in the reach with the others, that way all of them will die. If you still have issues, you can add Aziz in the equation, that way the enemies will come closer to him and that will allow you to reposition enemy heroes properly in order for Thoran to take them out. So in this case, he will be moved over there, Aziz is over here, and Nemora is coming right next to Thoran for him to ultimate them down. In situations where we have Flora on the enemy team, Thoran should kill 3 enemies with his ultimate and leave the last one with the 1 HP left, or with the link of Lorsan or the Tain. That way the 4th hero will be taken out by Kelthur or Flora, and then use a second ultimate on Flora of the enemy. Otherwise you won't be able to beat it. So you have only 2 ultimates and one should take out basically the entire team. Then your guy should finish up the rest, then Flora should come down and be taken out by the second ultimate of Thoran. So what would I consider Thoran Cheese core team? That will be Thoran, Lorsan and Pipa. Pipa seems to be really useful in this team to properly place Thoran inside of the enemy group, because that means a lot. That will mean less hassle, less pulling enemies toward your side if they don't wanna go there. Lorsan will allow you to link one of the enemies who don't wanna go to Thoran to destroy them easier, and that will allow you to basically clear out most enemies. After this, your additional heroes would be either the guys who will give you additional energy to activate your ultimates, like Aziz, because he is not really used in other team compositions right now, and I would add someone like Flora, because she will allow you to get extra haste if you have your furniture bonuses, and moreover she will be able to attack the enemies from above without actually taking damage, so that will take out the enemies who are not being taken out by the Lorsan link, and moreover she will give you that faction bonus that will give you additional attack that kinda be useful as well. So I would go for something like this. Although with Flora there is one drawback: her signature item lowers enemy haste, and that means that they won't be able to do that much DPS during Thoran's upwinding stage of the ultimate, and that might be a problem sometimes, although in the most cases it's not. So Kelthur could be a replacement for the Flora, because first of all, he can use the call, and with the call he will be able to give his energy when he dies to Thoran. That will improve his speed of using the ultimate, and moreover his gust will do quite a lot of damage to the enemies that are still on the battlefield. As for the enemy team that this team can counter, that team can counter most of the enemy teams other than Thoran, Aziz and maybe Zoloras. So it can be used against the toughest enemies on your playthrough. So there is no specific enemy that it counters, hard counters or something, it just takes out everyone. There is one problem with the Thoran Cheese formation. It's haste degradation. Basically the idea is the further you are in the campaign, the higher the enemy's haste is. They kinda scale it infinitely, and At chapter 42 they have 14-star gear. That means that the higher the enemy haste is, the lower your haste is, the harder it is for you it will be to pull off the Thoran Cheese. The enemies might just one-shot your Thoran after the resurrection, even if he will be at the full energy before he will be able to use his ultimate and get in the invincible state. Same goes for Pipa. She can be one-shot before she will be able to teleport your Thoran to the enemy side and give him immunity. Tank heroes with the barricade help with that, but not for long, and the best way to deal with this is to add Dura's Call with the haste bonus on all your heroes, but the main source of Thoran's haste will be Dura's Fortitude tree. It is said that after chapter 38 plus it's getting way harder to play Thoran Cheese because of his haste degradation, so the enemies are way too fast, and the good benchmark for those are level 47, 62 and 77 Dura's Fortitude tree level. Mine is level 15, it's nowhere close, but yes, as you level it up you will get a haste bonus that will help you with that. Gradual, Diamond and Thoran, all of those will benefit from that speed in any case, so if you use those guys it's a no-brainer to go for this branch of the tree. And if you have your own thoughts about the Thoran Cheese, I want to read them out in the comments, guys, and I'm pretty sure that there is nothing else I can tell you about that. You just have to adapt your Thoran Cheese team composition to the specific enemy team and counter the heroes and make sure that they are close together and your Thoran is taking a lot of damage. So the main thing will be the level deficit. If it's not that high, you won't be able to use it that efficiently. So it's a really good team composition for really high levels, while early on it's way harder to pull it off because of the low power difference between your guys and the enemies. So yeah guys, let me know what you think about this guide in the comments. While you're going there, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends and guildies, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button to see all the videos. Join the Discord, nice place to be. We kinda reworked it and now it's kinda thriving with a lot of people. You might join in, say hello and we can talk together over there. And you can also check other guides on AFK Arena and hero breakdowns in the link down below in the video description. We have all the links over there and in the pinned comment. That's about it for now, guys. Thank you for watching. Soviet out. До свидания.